What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. We're going intimate again. We're going to talk about a question I get asked quite a bit, surprisingly, and it is what I would do if I had to start over with a reputation, but nothing else. So no animals, no caging, no freezers with feeders. Basically, if overnight all of this stuff just evaporated and was gone. What kind of sparked this is many of you have heard that there's been a really big hit to the reptile community where somebody had a fire. I won't mention names, but somebody had a fire, very well respected, and they really had to start over, everything was gone. Now, I hope that never happens to me or any other keepers out there, but what I would personally do if it was basically a clean slate, fresh start, other than having my name, my reputation, the YouTube channel, the social media. And I've kind of thought about this, but I never really put any deep thought into it. Even right now, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say, but we're going to see where the video goes. And I think the first thing I would do is I would buy cages, and I would obviously, I do think I would go racks again. Just the ease of cleaning them, the overall conditions I can keep the animals with a really healthy, clean environment. I would do that all over again. So I would buy the Freedom Breeder racks. However, I'm not sure I would go to the same number of animals, the same scale, at least right from the start. And I didn't always have all these animals. It started out with some, and then I had holdbacks. I needed to buy more caging, and then had more holdbacks, needed to buy more caging. So I would probably start smaller. I can't put a specific number on it, but if I had to, I would say, 40 or 50 animals. The room itself, I'd probably build basically the same. Maybe if I could, I'd make it a little bit larger because having space in the reptile room is nice, but overall electrical design, everything would be about the same. But getting into the big question is what animals I would buy. And obviously boas would be high in that mix of animals. So I would likely cover all of my base morphs. And it wouldn't be in a single base morph. So for instance, I wouldn't just buy a hypo. I would probably buy something like a Moonglow, something that has multiple combinations within it. I would absolutely have bloods, and the hard ones would be the things like the Mayans. I can't really replace the Mayans because nobody who I've sold them to has bred them yet. They're all being raised up. So I would cover as much as I could for the bases. Then in terms of specific morphs, I'd have to put a lot of thought, but there would be your leopards, your different variations of albino. I'd absolutely have sharp and Kahl albino. I'd have VPI, I'd have my central T positives. The group would look very similar in terms of genetics to what I have now, but I would probably buy bigger stacks, bigger genetic stacks. And what I mean with the stack is something like, a VPI blood fire, something like that. I don't even know if that exists, but I would buy, big combos that can pair well with multiple others. I can take that animal and plug it into a bunch of different animals and have it be all compatible like a web. Everything kind of works together to feed itself into something. So if I didn't want to breed it to this animal this year, I could breed it to another animal. In terms of the adults I would say I would like to get, let's say, 10 pairs of compatible. And I don't really love the idea of buying adults. I've mentioned that a bunch of times. But if I could find from really reputable people that I trusted had healthy animals and they were trying to help me out, I would say that adults would be, I'd probably focus more on the bread and butter stuff, things that would produce albinos, moonglows, snows, VPI IMG combos, things like that I think have still held a strong market value and are also going to continue to be strong. So maybe I would try to find like a Moonglow or a Moonglow leopard. They would be more money to buy the adults. Maybe I would buy an adult VPI IMG or VPI Sunglow IMG, something that even in 5 years from now, it's still going to be a core component of what I have and is still an expensive and cutting edge morph, but I could, take that VPI IMG, breed it to another VPI IMG or VPI IMG Sunglow, and I'm making, visual VPIs, VPI Sunglows, VPI IMGs, VPI IMG Sunglows. I would try to buy as high into this stuff that's possible right now so that I could get results year one, as opposed to trying to build projects, mainly because I would be so far set back by having to raise the babies. Another thing I may do would be reach out to those kind of very, very specific breeders and see if they're working on something that hasn't really exploded yet. So, for instance, I saw a really, really pretty labyrinth blood. I don't know what it costs, but my guess is that it's going to be somewhere in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. But by the time I bought that as a baby, raised it up, that animal, labyrinth bloods might be selling for $400 to $500, and I'd need to sell 8 to 10 visual labyrinth bloods before I even got my money back. Or I would take that and I would breed it to a VPI Aztec blood, and then you'd make some combos that would be back up into that price range. So I'd be very strategic. I'd almost kind of write it out, and I'd see what's available, what piques my interest, write everything out, and figure out these larger combos. Moonglow Motley would be a good example. So it would have hypo, anatteristic, albino, and motley all in one animal. It'd be a 4-gene animal in one that's compatible with all kinds of other stuff, and it covers my bases. I'd probably buy multiples of those, and only thing that would make it better is you throw some jungle in there, and that way I can pair it all together. I'd also be very strategic about my incompatible combinations, things like jungle and Aztec and motley, where when you add them, you can't just do jungle Aztec motley to a jungle Aztec motley. It makes this completely fatal litter. So that's kind of where the direction I would head with those stacked combos, is stuff that I know I can raise up and that market is still stable and level. I may even try to buy full litters of babies from people so that I can get the good price on those combos, and then it gives me immediate inventory to sell. Now, I wouldn't buy litters from just random people. I would be very strategic on what I bought, but that could be a way that instead of buying adults, it gives me time to raise them my own, and also feeds into the big picture. Now, when I purchased again, I think I would make sure that I have at least a 3.3 compatible pair, because as I've said a million times in these videos, maybe not a million, but quite a few times in these videos, is stuff happens. And the last thing I'd want to do with the start over is now all of a sudden I have, this pair that I bought as a pair, and it doesn't work out. And now I have a male that I have no female for, a female I have no male for. So I'd make sure that I buy everything with some type of a harmony and compatibility to it. And then I think another one would be different locales. I would likely try to get some hog islands. I really like the Venezuelan boas, the Paragonera Peninsula, if I pronounced that correctly. It's a peninsula off of the coast of Venezuela. I haven't bred those yet. I actually have some being raised up right now. So again, the collection would be very similar to what I have now. I'd stay away from the larger stuff, things like the Surinames and Guyanas. And I don't know, I'd have to kind of flip a coin if I would go Argentine boas or Peruvian BCC. Everybody knows I love my Peruvian BCC, but I'd have to really find that perfect pair again and make that perfect pair of Peruvians, where Argentines seem a little bit easier to find those really pretty animals right now, which maybe I answer my own question. I'd go Peruvian because they're more challenging to find. And in terms of rarity, I think they'll hold that a little bit longer versus the Argentines, which are starting to pop up. There's more people. But at the same time, I'd probably get the T-positive Argentines. I think those are super cool looking. So I'd rebuild with those. And then for pythons, I'd absolutely have a small group of Burmese pythons, very similar to the size I have now. However, I would likely get different, same thing with boas, different combo stacks. I love my hypos and my ivories. They sell every year. Every year I make them. Every year they sell out. Because I think they're a very attainable price point for pets for a lot of people. And they're also really cool breeders. So you kind of tap into both the breeder market and the pet market, but they're very affordable. I do have some albino pieds. I'd make sure I'd have albino pieds in there. So I guess in long story short is I think my group of animals would look very similar to what I have here. IMGs, different types of bloods, VPIs, but it would be more in one animal. So right now I have things like hypo het albino. I have older adults, and I purchased this in. I have a hypo het anathoristic. There's nothing else in it. I wouldn't buy that specific animal back because I've built the reputation to be able to tap into the higher market. However, I also feel that somebody starting out, if they were to do what I just mentioned, they may struggle to sell the animals because they would be producing a lot of the higher end of that price range. And that's a hard market to tap into with no reputation. So I think that would be the biggest key to kind of the biggest caveat to this is this would apply if I had a reputation. And I did make a video on if I started out without a reputation. It's fairly similar. Buy your bases, buy your base recessives, your basing complete dominance, but it didn't necessarily have as much of a spend on that big combo. I think overall, that would be my plan. Hopefully you guys found this interesting, just seeing me literally think through the process in my head. Drop me some comments down below. We may do more of like a sequel of this where we get somebody in kind of a Q&A situation, similar to like maybe a podcast or a live or something. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this video. Until next one, let's keep it moving.